Hi, I'm Ron Henderson from Executive Home Inspections. Today we're going to talk about red flags for home buyers. Now, what I mean by that is there's certain things you can see when you're walking through a home when you're doing your house shopping that can give you an indication that there's a problem with the home that may or may not want you to rethink going ahead with that property. Now, home buying is a really big investment for most people, probably one of the biggest ones you'll make in your life. So it's important not to, waste time going through the whole process, paying for a home inspection on a property that's really not going to be what you want. So we're going to walk you through some of those red flags in this video. And at the end, we have a bonus home buyers tip. Uh, you're going to stick around and want to hear that one. It's pretty good. All right, so let's start off with foundation issues. This is a vertical crack, when I get my finger stuck in there. Now, vertical cracks are usually pretty much straight up and down. And the issue that can happen with vertical cracks is you can have water penetration, which means you're going to have a wet basement, water getting inside causing damage. Now, vertical cracks usually don't cause structural issues, but they can, especially if the cracks are moving on either side of the foundation, right? If one side's moving in, the other side's moving out. These cracks are fairly easy to repair. Of course, when they get bigger like this one, they can become more costly to repair. Now, horizontal cracks, those are the ones that are usually a structural issue. Now, as you can see from the photo here, it starts off at a window corner and it goes down and then it becomes horizontal. Now, the issue with the horizontal crack is it puts pressure on the foundation from the outside and it can cause the foundation to buckle. Now, that's obviously a major structural issue. And now here's a picture from the outside of that foundation being pushed in. You can see how it's bowing inwards there, and that's where the structure is starting to fail. Now let's talk about roof coverings. So these are basically different types of roof coverings or shingles. The one on the left, that's the asphalt shingles. Those, when they get old, they start to curl and deteriorate, and that's when you get water leaks. And the center one, that's a wood product. They're either wood shingles or shakes. Those just start to rot or fall out, and then, of course, you end up with water leaks as well. And the one on the right-hand side, those ones are made out of like a concrete or ceramic material, and they crack and break. And of course, then you have the same problem, right? Water leaks. Now, another issue that you might be able to notice if you're buying a house in the wintertime is if you see a bunch of ice damming. Now, this could mean a couple of problems being caused in the attic. You can find either lack of insulation, poor ventilation. Both of those will cause ice damming. Sometimes the rain gutters are plugged and they're not draining properly, and you get a warm spell, and it can also add to the problem, right? This is basically the front driveway of a house that is settled about 4.5 to 5 inches. What happens sometimes is the driveways are not rebarred into the cement pad for the garage floor, or they're not packed or compacted properly underneath. So over time, they start to drop, and then they need to either be replaced or mud jacked in order to be repaired. Uh, Another issue, and this is a big one, you don't want water going towards the structure. What we have here on the upper photo is we have a steep grade going towards the structure, which is going to bring water towards the house, which is what you don't want. In the other photo, this is where a driveway has settled. Now, it's pretty common to have driveways next to the house here and a garage in the backyard. The driveway is actually pushing on the house, and all the water that comes down towards the house there has got to go somewhere. So it's either going to just lay there, or at some point it's going to work its way through a crack or through the weeping tile and cause damage to the house. This is pretty obvious that this deck here has been condemned, not even safe to walk on. Obviously, if you're walking around the perimeter of a house and you're looking at purchasing, you would notice this. But if you don't, you might want to just take a quick peek underneath. You can see on the photo on the right how the main beam is actually rotted out. So that deck is no longer stable and needs to be completely replaced. Doors and windows are another big issue. Obviously, when they're damaged, they're easier to spot. But if you look on the right-hand side there with the big yellow circle, that kind of fogginess there, that's actually between the panes of glass. So that means that that seal is compromised and that needs to be repaired. Electrical is another potential issue. Obviously, anything with fuses is old and out of date and would need to be updated. The other issues is there's anything with the stab lock panel where they have the pure black breakers. those are known not to trip when they're supposed to. So that panel would probably need to be replaced and the breakers updated. We get into some plumbing issues. Now, the polybutylene water lines were built in houses from about 1985 to the mid 90s to late 90s. Now, the issue with polybutylene or PB2110 is that it starts to leak. Now, it can leak from a variety of reasons. Generally, around here, there's copper crimps on the connections. In some places, they were using plastic crimps or aluminum crimps and they were popping off. And this is a major issue with insurance companies, and they will charge you through the nose for insurance and probably still require you to upgrade within a short period of time. So that's one thing you want to look for. It's typically a gray looking pipe, but there are some PEX, some newer water lines that kind of look grayish too. So you want to look for the PB2110 there, like in the yellow circle. The other thing that can be an issue for insurance is steel water lines. You see on the right-hand photo there, we got a mixture of copper and steel. The steel ones are threaded together, and they generally start to rust out on the inside and at the threads, and then you have some major water leaks. Here's some clear indications that there's some water problems with this house. Anytime you see a bucket underneath a sink and there's water in it, you know there's problems, right? The other photo on the right-hand side, this was actually a brand new build. And this water here was for me running water during the inspection. Now I filled the tub and drained it. When I went downstairs, there was water everywhere because the water was not leaving the house properly. Now this water was all clean because no one was living there, but basically it's just sewer water. Now another big issue is mold. Mold is usually accompanied with water damage because mold generally needs a really moist environment to grow. As you can see here, this mold has been growing for a while. This stuff can actually be a problem. It can cause respiratory issues. So if you see mold, that's definitely a big red flag. Now, just a couple other general things to look for. If you happen to have a look at the furnace filter, obviously it's supposed to be clean and white, not brown and kind of fuzzy like the bottom one there. If you run some hot water in the sink and it comes out with a reddish color, that usually means the hot water tank needs to be replaced. If the dryer vent is all plugged, then obviously that needs to be cleaned. And that's kind of another indication that the house isn't being maintained properly. All right, so let's talk about the bonus. So when you're going through this and you find some red flags and you decide that you still want the property and you go to negotiate with the seller, make sure they're always doing repairs that are done by a professional. If you're going to let them do the repairs, personally, I would recommend you take money off the house and get the repairs done by your own guy. But if you're having the sellers do any repairs, always request that the repairs are done by a professional and you have a receipt from the company detailing what repairs were done and any warranty that comes with those repairs. I hope you found this video on red flags for home buyers informative and helpful. I'd like to thank you for joining us. When you're out home shopping, keep an eye out for those red flags. And when you find your dream home, make sure you get a home inspection.